Today, we have to start with some pretty stunning news coming out of Odesa.
It really is.
The threat wasn't a missile flying in from the Black Sea. No, this was being prepared deep inside the city itself.
Right on the ground.
Just hours ago, Ukraine's security service, the SBU, detained a Russian military intelligence agent group. And they were preparing bomb drones for attacks right there inside Odesa.
So this isn't a missile intercept. This is counterintelligence, stopping an act of internal terror before a drone even gets off the ground.
Exactly. And before we go any further, if you want timely, in-depth analysis like this, please subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source. I'm Alex.
Hey, I'm Arya.
Welcome to the Deep Dive by Defense Report, where we offer a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense, military tech, and of course, strategic developments.
And we are going deep today because this story from Odesa, it's about more than just one failed plot. It signals a really fundamental and frankly unsettling shift in how this shadow war is being fought.
It really does. Today we're covering that terrifying new phase, how Russian intelligence is using what you could call disposable local agents and common consumer drones to launch these highly kinetic attacks deep behind the front lines.
And we'll also dig into what Ukraine is doing to fight back, both at home and, crucially, deep inside Russian territory.
So our mission today is to give you a critical breakdown of this battle for the Black Sea port of Odesa based on the very latest intelligence.
We're going to unpack three things you absolutely need to know.
First, the chilling specifics of this drone bomb plot. I mean, how are these agents even recruited? We're hearing it was through Telegram. And what was a 2-kilogram payload of plastic explosive meant to hit?
Second, the massive strategic stakes. Why do recent comments from Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov about, Novorossiya, why do they make defending Odesa an absolute survival imperative for Ukraine?
And finally, we will explore the incredible new layers of the drone arms race. This includes Ukraine's really ingenious low-cost solution, reviving vintage Yak-52 aircraft to hunt down these sophisticated enemy drones.
It's fascinating stuff.
It is. So let's start right there with the immediate action. Odesa, January 16th. The SBU announces they've neutralized a cell. What more do we know?
Well, it was linked directly to the GRU, Russia's military intelligence. And this was just a textbook counter-intel success.
So who were they? Highly trained operatives.
That's the thing. No. The cell was just two people. A 49-year-old local entrepreneur and his 47-year-old acquaintance.
And their weapon of choice was a civilian drone?
A civilian quadcopter, yeah. The plan was a kinetic strike using an improvised drone bomb. They're essentially weaponizing off-the-shelf technology.
Turning something you can buy online into a vehicle for terrorism.
Precisely.
So what were they targeting, the usual port infrastructure, or something different this time?
It is highly specific. The target was a location housing a unit of the Ukrainian Defense Forces.
A direct military target?
Yes. The main operative had already retrieved the payload. We're talking 2 kilograms of plastic explosive and all the components for an IED, an improvised explosive device.
And he got this from where?
From a dead drop. A concealed cache set up by his Russian handlers. It shows the focus is on sowing chaos and hitting key military units, not just damaging a grain silo.
That payload, 2 kilograms, that is serious. How close did they get?
They were caught at the absolute critical moment, the pre-launch phase.
Wow.
Yeah, they were literally preparing to attach the explosives to the quadcopter when the SBU moved in. The reconnaissance was already done.
How did they do the recon?
Simple but effective. They marked the coordinates on Google Maps and then sent them through an encrypted Telegram channel to their handler.
And the SBU seized everything?
Everything. The drone with the explosives, the Kalashnikov, 2 Makarov pistols, and even an F-1 combat grenade.
An interception that almost certainly saved lives. What are the legal consequences for something like this?
Ukraine has thrown the book at them. They're facing charges of high treason committed under martial law.
So the maximum penalty?
Life in prison, potential property confiscation. It sends a clear message that Ukraine views this internal fifth column as an existential threat.
So let's step back a bit. Why Odesa? Why is it the focus of these relentless attacks, both kinetic and sabotage, all winter?
Well, on one level, it's obvious. Odesa is the main maritime gateway for Ukraine's entire economy. It's absolutely vital.
But there's more to it.
There is. You have to connect this to Russia's expanded war goals, which they've now made explicit.
You're talking about the return of the Novorossiya narrative.
Exactly. Just this past week, Foreign Minister Lavrov declared that Russia's goals now include annexing the entire Odesa, Mykolaiv, Kharkiv, and Dnipropetrovsk regions.
And they're calling this territory Novorossiya.
They are. It's an invented historical term they use. But the signal is massive. It indicates a total annexation goal, far beyond any previous talk of peace plans or protecting borders.
So it tells Ukraine that losing Odesa means validating that expansionist claim and losing their economic future.
It's an existential fight. And this ideological goal is backed by a very physical, very systematic campaign of destruction.
Winter megastrike campaign.
Right. It's designed to cause a humanitarian crisis in the coldest months. The kinetic strikes and this local sabotage, they're integrated. They're meant to break the nation's will.
We saw that in December. The scale of those attacks was huge.
Immense. In mid-December 2025, a combined missile and drone attack left something like 616,000 households without utilities.
In sub-zero temperatures.
Exactly, and it's ongoing. Just a few days ago, on January 12th, strikes in Odesa city left 46,000 families without power.
And it's not just about power, it's about disrupting Ukraine's place in the world, specifically as a food supplier.
And that targeting is deliberate. You look at January 9th, Russian drones struck 2 foreign-flag civilian vessels, the Ladana and the Wild K.
They're in the grain corridor.
Yes, part of that vital corridor.
Yeah.
So that shows they are specifically targeting international shipping, which is essential for the global food supply.
Let's shift to the how, because the methodology here is evolving so fast. This entrepreneur they caught in Odesa is a perfect example of what people are calling the gig economy of sabotage.
It's a fascinating and deeply concerning shift. Russian intelligence, the GRU and FSB, they've moved away from relying on expensive professional operatives.
To what?
To remotely recruiting what are basically disposable agents. They find them on digital platforms like Telegram. The whole model is built on low cost and, crucially, deniability.
It sounds like a twisted version of a freelance website. You see an ad for easy money and next thing you know, you're a spy.
That's pretty much the recruitment funnel. They prey on the economically vulnerable, the unemployed, or, ideological sympathizers. The guy on January 16th recruited through a Telegram channel advertising easy money.
And we've seen other profiles, right?
All sorts. There was an agent detained back in October who was monitoring air defense positions. He was recruited after he posted pro-annexation stuff on a banned social network.
And they coach these amateurs on tradecraft.
They do. It's quite sophisticated.
Yeah.
Take the 52-year-old woman arrested earlier in January. She was surveilling special forces units in Odesa.
What was her cover?
Her cover story was walking borrowed dogs.
Wait, really? Borrowed dogs?
Yes. She would borrow different dogs, change her appearance, change her routes, all to avoid suspicion while she was marking military locations on Google Maps.
That's absurd, but it shows how determined they are to blend in. And it's not just adults. We've heard reports of them using minors.
Unfortunately, yes. Teenagers. As young as 15, 16 years old in places like Kyiv. They're recruited through these online quest games. They're tasked with things like photographing air defense systems or even committing arson, sometimes without even realizing the true nature of what they're doing for money.
And how do the handlers pay them without getting caught?
Crypto. Financial anonymity is key to this whole model.
Yep.
Payments are made using cryptocurrencies, usually stable coins like USDT or Tether.
So it bypasses the entire banking system.
Completely. It creates what experts call a financial speed gap. The illicit money moves way faster than law enforcement can ever hope to trace it.
Okay, let's pivot to the tech, because this drone arms race is just escalating at an incredible pace. Let's start with Russia's Shahid drones. What are the new capabilities we're seeing near Odesa?
The Shahid is constantly evolving. It's a cat and mouse game. In terms of precision, new versions found in the Odesa region have an integrated optical unit in the nose.
What does that do?
It gives it both a daytime camera and thermal imaging, so you have much better target acquisition and terminal guidance. It makes them far deadlier, especially at night or in bad weather.
And they're getting harder to jam, I assume.
That's a huge focus for them. Some of the down Shaheeds have been found with Starlink terminals bolted on.
Starlink?
Yeah. It provides a jamming-resistant communication link, making it much, much harder for Ukrainian electronic warfare systems to disrupt its flight.
But the truly terrifying evolution is the Shahed being used in an air-to-air role?
This is a game changer. Russian forces have reportedly started using operator-controlled Shaheds armed with R-60 air-to-air missiles.
To do what?
To hunt Ukrainian interceptor aircraft and helicopters. Anything involved in low-altitude air defense. The slow, cheap drone is literally being weaponized to take down a manned, much more expensive aircraft.
That is a staggering development. So how is Ukraine fighting back against just the sheer number of these things? We heard over 200 were launched on New Year's Eve alone.
Ukraine's innovation here is absolutely crucial, especially against the slower, propeller-driven Shaheds. To counter the volume, they've deployed vintage Yak-52 aerobatic trainers.
Vintage trainers, it feels like we're going back to World War I tactics.
In a way, we are. A Yak-52 costs maybe a few $100s per flight hour, a tiny fraction of a modern jet. It has a two-person crew, and the gunner in the back seat just manually engages the drones with automatic weapons.
And this actually works.
It's surprisingly effective. These little prop planes account for about 10 to 12% of all the regional drone kills. It's a remarkably low-cost, effective solution.
But that success must make their air bases a prime target.
Absolutely. The airfields hosting these Yak-52s are now high-priority targets for Russian ballistic missile strikes. It's a constant, high-stakes chess match.
And while we're focused on defense in Odessa, it's so important to remember that Ukraine isn't just playing defense.
Not at all. They're exporting this shadow war deep into Russian territory.
Let's talk about Operation Spiderweb. This was an 18-month covert drone campaign by the SBU.
It culminated in those massive deep strikes on June 1st, 2025, and the logistics behind it are just incredible. SBU agents, including a Ukrainian couple, actually set up a fake logistics hub deep inside Russia in Chelyabinsk.
So they were building the weapons inside Russia.
Assembling them from components, yes. They put together about 150 FPV, or first-person view, drones and 8 launch cabins.
And then launched them all at once.
117 drones were launched simultaneously. The reach was incredible, hitting air bases up to 1,700 kilometers away from Ukraine.
And these weren't just any air bases. They went after some extremely high-value Russian assets.
The highest value. They struck 4 major bases: Belaya, Olenia, Ivonovo-Severny, and Dyagilevo. The targets were strategic bombers like the Tu-95 or the Tu-22M3.
And the A-50.
And, crucially, the A-50 early warning aircraft. The SBU claims the operation damaged 41 Russian military aircraft. The estimated cost, over $7 billion. It's a vital deterrent.
So bringing this all together, what does this hybrid battle for Odessa tell us about the future of this conflict?
Well, there are a couple of critical trends. For Odessa specifically, there's the immediate threat of a new hybrid front opening up from Transnistria.
The Russian-occupied territory just to the west.
It's only 80 kilometers away, and reports suggest Russia is strengthening its military presence there, calling up reservists, even opening drone trading centers. It forces Ukraine to divert precious resources to that border.
And the recruitment tactics we've been talking about, this gig economy of sabotage, that's not just a Ukraine problem anymore.
No, and this is probably the gravest implication for European security. The methods we see in Odessa are now mirroring a rising number of Russia-linked sabotage acts across Europe. Poland, Germany, Lithuania, the UK. They're using recruited locals for vandalism, arson, reconnaissance. Experts are warning that this is a systematic campaign to undermine support for Ukraine and, critically, to test NATO's red lines.
To see what they can get away with.
Exactly. To see what constitutes an act of aggression in this gray zone of hybrid war.
So a final thought for our listeners to take away from all this.
I guess it's this. If the drone arms race now features Shaheds armed with air-to-air missiles hunting Ukrainian defense aircraft, which is a truly terrifying evolution, what does this say about the critical window of opportunity Europe has to standardize its own air defense against this ever-evolving low-cost threat? That's the question we all need to be asking.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
We've examined how the failure of a local drone bomb plot in Odessa exposes the global reach of the gig economy of espionage and the rapid technological evolution that is defining this entire phase of the war.
Subscribe to Defense Reports for more timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.